Some houses are built from wood, brick, or concrete. Others are built from memories and promises made in blood. This one had 7 rooms, but on the night she turned 28, an 8th appeared. Sarah lived in a Victorian townhouse passed down from her grandmother. Creaky, ancient, but full of character. There were 7 rooms, 1 bedroom, 1 bath, 1 kitchen, 1 attic, 1 basement, 1 sitting room, and 1 locked storage room she was told never to open. On the night of her 28th birthday, Sarah woke up to find a new hallway at the back of the house. At the end of it, a door she had never seen before. It had no handle, only a dark knot hole in the center, faintly pulsing like a heartbeat. Searching the attic, Sarah found a hidden box of her grandmother's belongings. Inside was a leather-bound journal written in looping cursive. Its pages were filled with runes, moon phases, diagrams of the house, overlaid with something that wasn't there. The final pages were smeared in dry blood. One sentence repeated, "Do not open the 8th room until it calls you by name." That night, the door whispered. Sarah, the door opened. Behind the door, a spiral staircase leading downward, deeper than the house should allow. She descended for what felt like hours. The air grew warm, then hot, then wet. The walls pulsed as if they were breathing. Voices began to hum in unison, a low, harmonic chant from no clear direction. At the bottom, she found a perfect replica of her living room, but it was covered in soot and ash. In the center sat a mirror, and in the mirror, not her, but someone wearing her face, smiling too wide. The reflection spoke. "We were promised your skin. You are the last of your blood." Suddenly, invisible hands dragged Sarah into a circle of symbols. Her body began to stretch, limbs pulled in 7 directions. A deep hum shook the room. 7 doors appeared around her. Each door creaked open. Inside, twisted versions of Sarah, broken, altered, screaming. They crawled toward her. She screamed back, but the reflection stepped out of the mirror. It crawled forward, slow, deliberate, and tore its own face off, then wore hers. Sarah's body went limp. Her mind sank beneath the surface. The next morning, neighbors saw Sarah outside, waving politely. She seemed cheerful, calm, but at night, they saw her again. 2 of her, one walking through the hall, the other inside the mirror, watching. The 8th room had vanished again, but when guests visited, they sometimes heard footsteps behind a wall, in a room that didn't exist. Some claimed they heard their own names whispered. Eventually, the house was sold. The new owners never found anything unusual until one night, their daughter woke them, crying. The lady with the same face as Mommy said, "I'm the next one." When they asked where she saw the woman, she pointed down the hallway to a door with no handle. It wasn't there yesterday, but tonight it's waiting.
A few years back, when I was still a teenager, my best friend Daniel and I were just a couple of broke high schoolers trying to make ends meet. So when we heard old Mr. Whitaker was looking for help cleaning out his massive estate just outside of town, we figured, why not? He was an odd figure. When we met him, he wore thick gloves, even in the summer heat, and spoke in clipped, almost rehearsed sentences. Still, he offered us $100 each per week, cash, just to dust, sweep, and clean out the house room by rooms. Seemed like a dream job. It wasn't. The house. From the outside, the house looked like something out of a forgotten century. Towering and covered in tangled ivy, its windows dark and lifeless. The front gate groaned like an animal in pain every time we pushed it open. The garden was wild, overgrown, and oddly symmetrical, as if it had once been beautiful and someone had tried and failed to keep it from dying. The first time we stepped inside, something felt wrong. The air was thick, stale. It didn't smell like dust, more like old fabric, rotting wood, and something sickly sweet beneath it all, like flowers left too long in a vase. I remember Daniel paused in the doorway. "Dude, this place gives me the creeps." I laughed it off. "Yeah, but it pays." We got to work, sweeping floors, clearing cobwebs, wiping grime off walls that hadn't seen sunlight in years. The silence of the house was oppressive. Even when we spoke, our voices sounded muted, swallowed up by the vast, decaying walls. The doll. On our third day, while cleaning what looked like an old parlor room, I spotted it. Sitting alone on a high wooden shelf was a porcelain doll. It was no bigger than a toddler, dressed in a tattered red velvet dress, its face cracked along one cheek. One of its glass eyes was cloudy, while the other was crystal clear and blue. That single eye seemed to fixate on me the moment I entered the room. I froze. "Hey, Daniel, you see this?" He walked over, squinted, and recoiled slightly. "That's the creepiest thing I've ever seen." "I hate dolls," I muttered. "Why would someone keep that thing?" We left it where it was, not wanting to touch it. But after that day, things started changing. The whispers and shadows. The first sign was the whispers. They started soft, just at the edge of hearing. At first, I thought they were drafts through the old vents. But no, these whispers had rhythm, words. They sounded like a child singing a lullaby in a language I didn't understand. Daniel heard them too. One afternoon, while mopping the hallway outside the parlor, he suddenly dropped the mop and turned pale. "What?" I asked. He stared into the shadows near the stairwell. "Something just laughed." I listened. "Nothing. You're messing with me," I said. But then I heard it too, a low, breathy giggle that echoed through the walls, and the air turned cold. I mean winter cold. Our breath began to mist in front of our faces. The next day, Daniel showed me scratches on his back. 3 long, thin marks like something had clawed him while he was scrubbing the bathroom upstairs. The moving doll. It got worse. The doll. It started to move. At first, we thought we were imagining things, but on multiple occasions we found it in different parts of the house, even though neither of us had touched it. One morning, it was sitting in a rocking chair in the upstairs hallway. The next on the piano bench in the music room. Once it was perched at the very top of the staircase, facing downward as if watching us. I tried to laugh it off, tried to rationalize it. "Maybe Mr. Whitaker's messing with us," I suggested. "He's old, maybe he thinks it's funny." Daniel shook his head. "He hasn't even been here since the first day. You've seen how he never enters the house." And it was true. Every day he'd unlock the gate, let us in, then vanish. The night it came alive. We should have quit. We talked about quitting, but curiosity is a stupid drug and we were hooked. On the 7th day, something happened that neither of us could explain or forget. We were finishing up late. The sky had turned orange outside. Daniel was in the kitchen and I was upstairs, collecting tools. As I turned the corner into the parlor, I stopped dead. The doll was there, standing, not sitting, standing on the windowsill, arms stretched out, head tilted, and it turned to look at me. I screamed. Daniel came running, and when he saw it, he screamed too. And then the lights flickered, the walls groaned, the temperature dropped instantly. And from behind us, we heard footsteps, slow, dragging steps, like bare feet across wooden floors. We turned. Nothing. Then came the voice. A child's voice, soft and broken. "You shouldn't be here. Mr. Whitaker's return." We ran, or tried to. But the front door slammed shut and wouldn't budge. Daniel was banging on it when Mr. Whitaker finally burst in through the back, his face pale, eyes wide. He was carrying a small wooden box and a black vial of liquid. "Where is it?" he hissed. "Where's the doll?" We pointed. It was now seated calmly in the middle of the room, its eyes dark and hollow. Mr. Whitaker stepped forward, uncorked the vial, and poured the thick black liquid over the doll's face. He chanted in a language I'd never heard, harsh, guttural, ancient. And in the shadows of my room, just for a second, I see something small, something wearing red velvet, watching. Two years ago, I moved to Texas with my best friend and roommate, Sarah. We rented a small, cozy apartment on the outskirts of town. I've always had a fascination with dolls, not the plastic kind, but those beautiful porcelain antiques. To me, they weren't creepy, they were comforting. So, on my birthday, when Sarah handed me a delicately wrapped box, I was thrilled. Inside was the most stunning doll I had ever seen. Her skin was pale porcelain, smooth except for a faint hairline crack under her right eye. She had cascading auburn curls and the most hauntingly vivid blue eyes I'd ever seen. Eyes that glistened like glass but somehow felt alive. I was in awe. "I saw her in an antique shop and immediately thought of you," Sarah smiled. I named her Hazel. She took her place of honor on my nightstand, facing my bed. At night, her eyes reflected the soft light of my lamp. They sparkled, almost too much. In the beginning, everything felt fine. Hazel added charm to my room, and I found her presence oddly comforting. But that comfort began to sour within a week. It started small. My phone charger would be unplugged in the morning. A spoon I knew I had placed in the sink would be back on the counter. I blamed Sarah at first, thinking she was playing pranks, but she swore she wasn't. Then came the whispers. At night, just as I was drifting to sleep, I'd hear faint murmurs. Soft, female, like a lullaby sung through clenched teeth. I'd sit up, heart pounding, but the room would be silent except for Hazel's eyes, reflecting moonlight, staring directly at me. I told myself it was stress, a trick of the ears, but the feeling of being watched grew stronger, heavier. I couldn't shake it. It followed me from room to room, especially when Hazel was nearby. One night I awoke with a start, my arm stinging. When I turned on the light, there were 3 long, thin scratches running down my forearm. I checked the sheets, my nails, even under the bed. Nothing. But Hazel, who normally sat upright, had slumped forward, her face turned toward me, mouth slightly agape. The next morning, I found strange symbols drawn in soot on the mirror. Circles within circles, lines like thorns twisting into runes. I wiped them away quickly, refusing to acknowledge the fear spreading in my chest. That day, I went to see Father Thomas at the small Catholic church down the road, a kind, older man with tired eyes. When I explained what was happening, he grew silent. "Camila," he said gravely, "some objects carry spiritual residue, negative energy. They can become vessels, homes for things that should not walk this world." He offered to cleanse the apartment and banish whatever was attached to the doll, but I couldn't do it. I couldn't give up Hazel. She was a gift. From Sarah, a symbol of our bond. So I politely declined. That night the whispers returned, louder, clearer. I heard my name spoken with a breath that wasn't mine. "Kama, help me." I froze. My entire body went numb. Hazel sat in her usual place, but her head had turned slightly. I was sure of it. Her eyes gleamed unnaturally in the dark. Still, I didn't scream. I didn't run. Instead, I replied, "What do you want?" There was no answer. But something shifted. The air grew colder. My breath fogged up. Hazel's eyes seemed to soften for a moment. I told myself I was imagining it, but deep down I knew I wasn't. From then on, I began speaking to her. Every night, whispered conversations in the dark. I told her about my fears, my childhood, my dreams. I shared things I had never even told Sarah. In return, Hazel never moved, never answered again. But she listened. I could feel it, and I felt connected. But the deeper our connection grew, the darker the apartment became. The lights flickered constantly. Cold spots would appear in corners. Sarah started having nightmares, screaming in her sleep. Once, she woke up with a nosebleed and a bruise in the shape of a small handprint on her thigh. She asked me to move Hazel into the closet. I refused. We argued. Then one morning, I found Hazel sitting on Sarah's pillow. Neither of us had put her there. That day, Sarah packed a bag and left to stay with her sister. She never came back. Left alone, I sank deeper into Hazel's world. The symbols reappeared, carved into the wooden floor this time. The walls began bleeding ever so faintly around the baseboards. Not red, something darker, black, like oil. At night, I'd hear footsteps circling my bed. My reflection in the mirror would sometimes smile when I didn't. My fingernails turned brittle. My skin grew pale. I barely slept, and still I couldn't part with her. Then came the night I truly lost control. I was lying in bed, eyes closed, when something crawled onto my chest. I opened my eyes, but saw nothing. I couldn't move. It was like being pinned down by invisible hands. My chest burned, my vision blurred, and then I heard Hazel again. But this time her voice was not soft. It was desperate, screeching. "Karma, don't leave me!" I screamed. My body jerked free. I lunged for the door, but it slammed shut. The windows rattled. Hazel had fallen off the table and lay face up on the floor, smiling. Blood dripped from her porcelain lips. That was the moment I finally broke. The next day I called Father Thomas. I begged him to come. This time he brought help. 3 people in dark robes, carrying candles and vials of holy water. They set up quickly, chanting as they surrounded Hazel. The moment they began, the room changed. The temperature plummeted, the windows shattered, the floor shook. Hazel shrieked, a high-pitched sound that came from nowhere and everywhere. Her mouth opened wider than it should have, revealing a cavern of black. Father Thomas shouted ancient prayers. One of the robed women collapsed, blood pouring from her nose. The lights exploded, but still they continued. The chanting rose to a fever pitch and then silence. Hazel's body cracked, a line running straight down her face. Her eyes rolled back, and then stillness. She was gone. They sealed Hazel in a glass case, wrapped in silk with runes burned into the fabric. She was taken to a private museum that specialized in cursed objects, a place far from here, far from me. I watched them carry her away, and I wept, not from fear, but from something else, grief. Even now, months later, I can't explain it. Was Hazel truly evil, or was she just misunderstood? A spirit reaching out, confused, lonely, clinging to the only person who ever listened. My room is empty now. Peaceful, yes, but sterile. Cold, quiet. Too quiet. And sometimes, just as I'm falling asleep, I swear I hear it again. A whisper. "Come on." And I wonder, did I really save myself, or did I abandon her?